Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. In today's 5 influential horror movies, we are talking with Chad, who is very kind and decided that he wanted to be on the channel. He is an author. I'll put a link to some of his information below. And we're just going to be talking about his top 5 influential horror movies and why he chose them. Do you just want to go in order that you sent them, or do you have a preference?
How about, I guess we'll just do like order of release,
We can do
I
that. Sure.
guess.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
It's funny. I usually, when I'm compiling lists like this, I'll usually try to, everything that I picked is pretty mainstream. It's like,
It is.
it's just your typical, and that's not something I usually do. I usually try to do the deep cuts, but I had to be honest. And this is just stuff that I was born in 1970. So, trying to do a lot of the deeper cuts I didn't get to until I was, later in my teen years or
Right.
20s or something like that. So
Yeah.
I would kind of be lying if I tried to look cool and just grab movies that were, obscure and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I look at these, I'm just like, there's so much about each one of them that makes sense to, that kind of,
Yeah.
made me who I am, whether it be my own personal fears or what I like to write about or what I'd like to look for in a film.
Yeah.
It's all in this kind of stuff. So
Yeah, it's a really good list.
they're all typical. Like nobody's gonna see the list and go, man, I haven't heard of that one. I'm gonna have to see that. We've
Yeah.
all seen these.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
At least 4 of them.
Yes, at least 4. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. What's our first one then?
I guess that would be Halloween from
Halloween.
1978.
Yeah.
I saw Halloween 2 first.
Oh, okay.
And I saw it was my first actually rated R movie.
Oh,
And
nice. That's a cool memory.
I saw it when I was 12. So I think it had just kind of come out.
Yeah.
And it was on HBO, and my parents didn't have HBO because we lived way out in the country, so we didn't have cable or anything. So I was staying the night at a friend's house, and I watched Halloween 2. And then I don't know if HBO still does this, but back then they would kind of like cycle through, so you could watch like Halloween 2 at 8, and then it'd be on again at like 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I watched it twice, and it was my first time seeing like boobs in a movie, the whole thing, like the gore.
Yeah.
And I was already a huge horror fan. I had been for like since I was like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But this was next level. So but then and I loved it, and I like it maybe even as much as the original. But the original is different because it didn't, the second one has gore in it. The first one is just complete atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it was it really set the bar high for like, low budget horror. I mean, with the soundtrack, and it's still one of the, if not the greatest horror soundtrack that we've had,
Sure.
Since, and to have the director do it too,
Yeah.
And
but it's still really effective though. I mean, even
big time,
and I feel like at least the first 2 Halloween movies, as far as time, they've still, in my opinion, held up really well. Like I watch at least the first one. Sometimes I can get through some of the other ones. But every year I try really hard to watch those in October. Just because, and I feel like I'm always kind of taken back to that, like, first time I ever heard the music, or the first time I ever saw that specific chase scene, or, and it's like, I feel like they've held up really well, at least for those of us that have seen them, before now. They've held up really well. And the music especially, I feel like has.
Yeah, and not just the main theme song, but
all of it,
little song that was written for each scene. I love it. And so
Lazy.
Halloween, great movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Love it. I always love it. And then the next one I picked is from, actually, I guess I should have went with Exorcist because that was what, 73, 74?
Oh, I guess that would have been,
earlier. I guess I think of that as more modern just because it holds up more than even any movie back then, regardless of the genre. William Friedkin did an amazing job. with the movie. I did see some clips from like the anniversary thing, and there were some things that they did in there that I thought kind of ruined it, where they would like superimpose Pazuzu's face on stuff where it shouldn't have been, and like the dude's mom in the window at the end, they put her, and I just thought, to me that felt like spoon feeding. Like we you know,
right. Yeah.
You don't need all of this extra stuff. You've got this great tone, this great movie, and then you start adding these, or they superimpose something over Reagan's face when she was hypnotized, and just a couple things like that were, it was such a great movie without it. So
right.
But yeah, The Exorcist I saw when I was, they had an edited for TV version when I was like, I think I was like 8 or 9, and I watched maybe a half hour of it, and then as soon as she did her first like thing where it was scary, I turned it off.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't watch it. And then I think a year went by and I tried it again. I got a little bit farther in the movie.
Right.
I shut it off again. And then when I was like, I think I was like 13 or 14, we rented it, and I finally watched the whole, like the rated R version all the way through.
Yeah.
The Exorcist. The next one I have is The Shining, which might be my favorite horror movie of all time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I don't know what it is about it. I don't even remember how old I was when I first saw it, but I do recall in 1980 when I was only 10, I remember seeing the trailer on TV a couple times, and the trailer was really ominous, and you just see like Jack running through this maze at night, and it was like, what is this? And the way it was lit up and everything was kind of blue and white, and it was so creepy. And then the music and the trailer. And when I finally saw it, I was just so blown away. And each time I watch it, it holds up. I wouldn't say it holds up more than The Exorcist for me, but stylistically, it's just like there's so many like screenshots that you could just take a screenshot and like 20, 30 different scenes and like frame them and put them on your wall, and they would just look like pieces of art.
They're stunning.
The way that Kubrick just like, he had all those wide shots from the carpet to the elevators to the maze, and and so many, very few horror movies have so many identifiable, iconic images. That you know, from, you know, of course the carpet. I mean, the carpet itself is, it's like its own entity. That carpet is all over my house, on my ceiling fan, and on some of my clothes, and phone cases and stuff like that. I mean, it's become its own thing. But you know, or the bear guy with the tuxedo guy in the bedroom, and just the twins and all that stuff. It's just I love that movie, and the acting. And I've seen people complain about like Shelley Duvall's performance, and I just don't. I kind of get it, but I don't. I don't understand. I feel like maybe these people are used to, like, I don't know, like a prettier, you know, like when they did the miniseries, Rebecca De Mornay.
Yes, where they
played Wendy, and some people were like, well, that's more like it. And I'm like, well, Wendy was average. Jack was average.
They weren't meant to be.
A family.
Yeah.
Not a Hollywood family, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that her appearance lent itself really well to that kind of the creep factor, because when she got scared, she was scary looking.
Yeah, you know? Because everything was so animated and big. Like it, no, I agree.
Yeah, that was The Shining. So good.
That is a good one, for sure.
They better not remake that again.
Jeez.
But they will. They will.
I know.
One day.
When they're done with The Exorcist, they'll go for The Shining.
Yeah. And then next, from like, what was it, 81 or something like that? The Evil Dead, which I saw on Beta. You two young to remember this, but when VHS tapes came out, Beta tapes also came out at the same time, and they were just smaller VHS.
Oh, okay.
And they were in competition with each other. And apparently the reason why they no longer exist is because the porn industry, which is a huge industry decided we're going to choose just VHS.
Oh.
So that went, because they were so in control of everything,
right.
that went away with Beta. But there was a Beta store locally, and they had a horror selection. And my mom, I think I was going to be babysitting my sister and brother. And I was like 12 or 13, and my mom got me a stack of movies, and that was one of them. Had no idea what it was, never heard of it.
Okay.
So, and I don't even think there was a cover, just a clear plastic case when she brought it home.
Huh.
So I put that in, and that movie, you know, I know that some people like who've seen it later don't see it as a terrifying movie. And I think a lot of it has to do with, because then you've got Bruce Campbell's character just becoming this
silly,
cocky ham. Yeah. But that didn't exist back then. It was just the Evil Dead. Right. And then, so when I saw it, not knowing anything about it or anyone who had seen it, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was just really raw and gritty. And the makeup was genius, but also really bad.
Right.
Really like poorly done. You know, it was just, but it was so good. It was like so poorly done that it worked really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that became my favorite movie. I've probably seen, I have seen Evil Dead more than any of these other movies that I listed.
I've seen that one a lot too. Yeah.
But it became my favorite movie for decades. Okay, so we're on to my fifth, and you said that I could do a television series.
Yes.
And now it's weird because initially when I was writing my fifth one down, I had written a movie by the same director. But then I was like, I wish I could just lump everything he's ever directed together as one, because so I picked the series instead. But I picked David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Some might not call it horror, but most people would. I mean, it is like a mystery, and there's a lot of campiness to it. There's humor, really kind of dry, quirky humor.
Yep.
But there's some really dark moments in it too, especially the third season that just came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
And there's something about David Lynch, he terrifies me. He doesn't do horror movies, but there are really some horrific stuff in there, like nightmarish things in there. And if he ever does a horror movie, God help us, because it's going to be terrifying.
But freak us all out. Yeah.
I just, so many, like, just, I don't know how much of his stuff you've seen, if any of them, but like I had Blue Velvet on the list initially.
I see Blue Velvet.
Not a, you know, it's just like gritty crime, not really horror, but there were some scenes in there that were so disturbing that they were kind of horrifying. But Twin Peaks, it's so oddball and surreal that those horrifying moments, I think that's, plus he does this thing with like this, he often uses like a real ominous drone over something, a scene that normally wouldn't be scary, and it makes it scary because he puts this sound over it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But that's one series that I could just go back to over and over and over again. And I chose it because, and I guess I chose a lot of these mainly because I ended up becoming a writer. And all of my, you know, most of the movies, with the exception of like Evil Dead, there's not a lot of, unless you want to count The Shining too, I guess, there's not a lot of like true like supernatural elements. They're more of kind of like, most of the stuff I write is more like real life horror. I don't like to mess with like supernatural stuff because it doesn't really scare me, with the exception of like, you know, possession stuff. But I don't necessarily classify that as something that's pure fiction.
No,
I don't. You know, I believe. I don't know what I believe as far as possession goes. I don't believe in ghosts. I think it would be cool to see a ghost, and I think it would be cool if they existed. Same with Bigfoot. I don't know if I believe in Bigfoot, but man, would that be cool? You know, kind of thing. And I'm open to hearing about it, and I love reading about it and stuff like that. And it's like, it reminds me of when I was a kid, when I would hear about these things and I never really believed it. Like the Amityville Horror, when that happened, when the Lutz family came out and they said, this is going on in our house, and they wrote the book. I wanted so bad to believe that that was really happening. And the closer they got to maybe it being a hoax, it was like discovering that Santa wasn't real, and the disappointment
I know what you
that I felt, because I wanted this to be real.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I believe in, but I really do want to. And I would love to have like some kind of proof that this stuff, you know, really goes down. And so with Twin Peaks and David Lynch's stuff, I have a couple of my books have some kind of, I guess you would call David Lynchian moments or surreal moments that almost don't make, it's not that they don't make sense, they're just so oddball and out of context. Right. And I love writing that kind of stuff, and I love watching and reading that kind of stuff too. And I don't mean like bizarro fiction, but not so far out of reality. Just something that's completely out of context that makes no sense, but could happen. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I follow.
My two favorite modern horror films that I've seen are It Follows and Hereditary. Did you like It Follows?
I did not.
Wow. Okay.
So I actually did a video on like the top 5 cult classic movies that I can't stand. And It Follows and Hereditary is in that video.
Oh my goodness.
So I think part of the reason I can say now that I don't know about Hereditary, I think is because I think really thinking through Midsummer, because it's the same person. And I feel like maybe because I have a kind of different perspective on the way that the movie came across to someone else, and kind of like you said, like you talk to other people and you just get a different appreciation. It kind of made me like rethink some of the things about Hereditary that I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about, or didn't really hit the first time that I watched it. And I think like, that's why I can say now, like, I don't really know how I feel. I feel like now that I'm having these conversations with people who really love A24, who really love these specific movies, maybe going back and giving them another chance and kind of seeing where I fall. And It Follows is another one that while I didn't find it didn't like, I wasn't super glad I spent time watching it. It's another one that I kind of like some of the tactics that are in it. So there's like this, there's this weird theme, and I'm sure it's done on purpose, although I'm not 100% sure I'm clear on the why. But there's this weird thing in It Follows where like you have no idea what time it is. Like it's a very common theme, like from the beginning of the movie, you know, you see this girl going out her.
You're talking about the era, or like talking about the actual era or time of day?
Yeah, era. Like I don't know when it's going on. Like it, because there's so like it starts out the first scene is that girl coming out to the car, and she's got like, I don't know, like a 2006 Honda Civic or something, and she gets in her little car and she's driving away, and then like we're not in 2000, like it's just a very like, and then there's weird sequences where it goes back and forth between hot and cold. Like you'll see like one scene, she's like in her swimming pool, and the next she's got on like a jacket, and I that lingered, but I don't know why. Like I don't know if I understand the reason behind that part of it, but like I feel like that was oddly well done for me to have not really thought, you know. But I don't know. I think I thought maybe it's because it's kind of like a statement piece. I'm really weird about movies like that, or I feel like if horror is going to be this like woke thing, right, where it talks about these things and it's getting this message out and it's opening our eyes to all these things, I don't think that's a very easy task when you're talking about a horror movie. I feel like you have to really kind of know what direction you want to go in, and you have to do it and execute it in such a way for it to really hit like it's supposed to when it has like a message like that. Like Get Out, super well done for a statement piece. Like I love that movie, but I think that It Follows was just one, like I definitely wasn't scared. I don't think I was uncomfortable ever.
Even the guy in the hallway?
No.
Even that guy in the hallway, that didn't scare you?
It didn't get me. I was like, yeah.
Oh man, that got me so bad.
All you gotta do is like not get in a corner and just like go around. I don't know. Like it just seemed like, I don't know. I mean, I guess the lingering concept of like, you know, like you can't just get rid of it, because even when it's out of sight, it's still there, because if the person before you gets caught, it comes back to you. Like that part is very probably uncomfortable for me.
Because you're constantly being followed, and it doesn't really matter how far away it is. You know, it's still coming straight at you.
So
it might be here in an hour, it might be 2 weeks, You don't know where
But either
exactly where it
way,
is or
yeah.
who it is.
Yeah. And I think, but I just like, I don't know. And I had a really hard time connecting with, I think, the characters. Like I wasn't super invested in them, which was a problem because if I'm not invested in the characters, it's a lot harder for me to care about the movie as a whole. But I just didn't, and I don't think that they did like a terrible job. Like they weren't like the worst actors, or I just didn't care for some reason. Like they didn't get me invested in them. And that made it harder for me to invest myself in the story or the movie as a whole.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's another one that people, I mean, swear by that movie, that like they love
Yeah.
it. One of my favorite horror YouTubers that does horror let's plays, I mean, I swear he brings up that movie like he loves that movie, and I'm just like, I
Yeah, so
don't
do
get
I.
it. Like, yeah, a lot of people
It's
did.
probably in my top 10 of horror
Really?
movies of all time. Yeah.
Dang.
I like the indie nature of it. It's very,
Yes.
very indie. And I
Yep.
love, as I was telling you, and it has some drama in it too that makes it, and I love slow burns. And
Yeah, I don't mind slow
I
burns
actually
generally.
like the ambiguity of the era. Like you don't know,
Yeah, I did
you
like
see a
that.
couple modern cars and then you see really old ones. And then the furniture is like, what is this, the 70s?
Yes, the
And then
carpet, the walls have that wood paneling stuff on them, and you're like, what? Yes,
and then
yes.
their clothes or and then but then all of a sudden that chick brings out her e-reader that's like a
Yes.
seashell. It's like, wait a minute, where?
I'm so confused. Like,
But
do you
I
guys
loved
just,
that.
I liked
I
that part
loved
too.
that because it just felt like, I don't know, there's something about that. And it wasn't just like a Kindle. It was like, I don't even, what is that? A
What is
compact?
that
I can't
device?
tell. Yeah. Is she reading on it? It looks like she's supposed
Yeah.
to be opening it and putting on foundation or something. Cause
It's like so yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I really liked that. And I would be curious to know why it was done that way. Because I feel like everything in that movie had a purpose too,
mm,
regardless of my feelings for it. Like I feel like everything that, it had a point. So I'm just wondering like what that is, because like it was very confusing. And then I was kind of like, okay. And then I remember thinking after the fact that like I did actually really like that part, that it was done that way. I think that was well done, but I just
yeah,
don't know.
I think the soundtrack was one of the better soundtracks that I've heard in a long time too.
Oh
It
yeah, I
was
liked the
the
music.
really chaotic stuff
Mm.
and the cinematography, and I love the ending. I know some people didn't, but I'm a big fan of ambiguous endings. I want
Yes.
to, like you were saying, I want to be able to kind of continue my own story and make up my own
Yes.
interpretation and have that stick with me for days and go, did it mean this? I don't want to know exactly what
I'm good
happened.
with that. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I
when
also,
they're
oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I
I
was
was
just
just
going
gonna
to say,
say, so when they're go, you go.
I was just going to add that I also really don't mind unhappy endings. I'm really good with those
Yeah,
too, because
yeah,
then I
me
think
too.
about those very differently too. That was all I was going to add. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the ending of It Follows, when they're walking down the sidewalk hand in hand, and you can't tell if the thing behind, way off in the distance behind them, is
Yeah.
just a neighbor, or if
Or
it's
if
the thing
it's
that's
a
going
threat.
to
Yeah,
kill them, and who is it going to kill?
that's
And
true.
so I love that.
Yeah, I did. I like certain parts of that one. It was another one that like I didn't get why everyone loved it. So have you seen Babadook?
Yeah.
Was that another one that you loved?
Um, I I remember being this is one of those movies where I went in thinking something else and not realizing I should have put my thinking cap on before I turned the movie on. And
Yes, I
so
can see
not
that.
realizing this is more than I thought it was going to be, and I need to probably rewatch it to really. But that freaking kid, man, drove me crazy, and I couldn't. I wanted him to just die.
Yeah, I know.
So that
That's
was my
yeah.
main thing with that, and I wouldn't say I hated it. Um, I would watch it again. I think I've only seen it the one time, but I
Yeah.
realized at the end or toward the end that, oh, okay, I should have been paying like extra
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah,
But
it's not
yeah,
a dime store horror kind of story. It's I think so I can't remember her name. The young lady that directed it. It was her first, it's like her debut
mhm,
film. And I think it's also another one that has a very kind of a big statement that it is trying to make.
mhm,
And I think that in trying to drive home what the movie was actually about, it just became too irritating. Like I was uncomfortable, which is on purpose. You're supposed to be uncomfortable most of that movie, but I was uncomfortable in an annoyed way, not a like uncomfortable in a thriller or a psychological movie where you're just like, oh my gosh, like you just go down this rabbit hole with your mind. But like I was uncomfortable because I was like, if that was my kid, I swear to God, like I'm just like, he was so great at everything that he did, like as far as from
Yeah.
an acting standpoint, he was
Yeah.
phenomenal, but I hated him so much, and it made it hard for me to care past the level of like, just beat him up, like just get
Yeah.
rid of him. I can't,
I agree.
like you lose when you get to that point emotionally, you lose a lot of the story, a lot of the purpose, a lot of the
Yeah.
impact, because you're just so angry. You're just like, I can't do another scene with that kid. And oh my God, the grinding of the teeth, and like, oh, I hated that so much. I was like, that probably was effective in the way that it was meant to be, because that, oh, teeth is one of those things that just like really make me uncomfortable. Teeth and fingernails are like two things I just can't. But that, I was like, that little kid, he would be sleeping outside. There's no way. I can't do it. I can't do it. But that was another one that like people love. Like it's put on like a pretty high pedestal. And
Or they hate it. Yeah.
and I just didn't, I couldn't get behind that one. I was like, I don't understand why all of you guys like this movie so much.
Yeah. I don't,
Yeah.
I usually don't, usually the ones that are, that I can't get behind are more kind of like mainstream kind of stuff, like a lot of the movies that came out in the 90s, like after Scream,
Yeah.
where everybody is just kind of like they're a model first, then they're an actor, so they got to have all the good looks and that kind of stuff. Even in TV series and stuff, that kind of crap drives me nuts, man. I don't want to. It's like distracting, because you can tell they just got this part based on their looks, and this isn't really what all these beautiful people are not. I remember watching a show called The 100. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I'm familiar.
And everybody in that show is just a gorgeous human being.
They really are.
And I was just like, this is ridiculous.
They're all very good looking. That's true.
Yeah. And it was like, this is a perfect example of what I hate in a show or a movie.
Yeah.
And it's done like this. And so when you see something like I guess maybe the people in Hereditary or It Follows or Midsummer, it's like they're not ugly people, but they're
just normal,
unrealistically gorgeous.
Yeah, they're just normal, which I think adds to relatability, because you definitely like,
for sure.
I love Toni Collette. I think she is a phenomenal actress. I loved her in everything I've ever seen, and in horror or not, like I love her as an actress. I think she's fantastic. But she's one of those people who, like, I think she's gorgeous, but she's so normal looking. Like she looks like somebody that like takes their kid to soccer 3 times a week, that you would see, out there cussing at the coach, or like somebody you'd bump carts with in the grocery store. And that, I think, at least from, as far as impact goes, like it hits differently when they're not these like, boy band people that you bring in that are just doing this, because people will watch it because they're in it. It's very, I like the lesser known, the more normal looking, which tends to be, of course, why like some of the less mainstream, more indie stuff is better, is because it just hits so differently, because it's not, like you said, it's not models just parading around getting paid to say some lines at a camera.
If you took Hereditary and you would cast every person in that show with somebody, like if I can't remember her name, but the girl with the orange sweatshirt, the daughter, she definitely looked different. I mean, it was never addressed, but you see her right away. First glance, you're like, well, that is a different looking person.
Yes.
And the parents and the brother, if you all cast them as just beautiful human beings, it's going to be a completely different movie and not taken as seriously.
That's true. Yeah, it takes you out of it. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, so those are my 5, Twin Peaks being the last one.
That's a good list. Yeah.
I would encourage people who haven't seen Twin Peaks to and
Yeah, I
hopefully
need to
they'll
do
like it.
that.
But just know going in, yeah, this is like nothing you've seen, and you can't. It's David Lynch, and you can't be upset with the quirkiness of it. It's
Yeah.
there on purpose.
Yeah, it's not unintentional. Right?
And I hope if you give it a chance again, I hope you enjoy it.
I think I probably will. I actually don't really have I'm getting a lot more adventurous as far as like obscure horror versus more like more mainstream everyday, like things everybody knows. But I've never really been opposed to it. My dad's like a huge sci-fi fan, so I grew up watching like these really cheesy, awful, like sci-fi and horror movies and a mix of somewhere in between. And I love stuff like that. Like I mean, I still go back and watch like, black and white horror movies. I love all of the, like some of the over the top. I'm trying to think of, there's one in particular I'm trying to think of, and I'm drawing a total blank on the name. It's where the monster is like a Pac-Man.
Deadly Spawn?
No.
How old is it?
It's I don't remember.
The Langoliers?
That's it.
Okay.
That's the one. I remember.
It's horrible.
Like, it's so bad, but I loved it. Like we had such a great time watching that.
Yeah.
But like getting away from like cheesy and just getting like trying to find a way to find the stuff that's like not as popular. Like I don't really mind watching obscure stuff, and I'm trying to get better about that part, about getting adventurous and really learning more about like the other side of things that, like, I don't know, like just horror movies and stuff that I would have never thought. Well, cool. Well, thank you for agreeing to come on and talk to me.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. These conversations have been like, first of all, I don't have very many people in my life that are horror fans, so I don't get to just like say all this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool meeting so many different people that do so many different things, that like so many different things, and just hearing, because like there's a couple of things like I think somebody else had Evil Dead, but I guarantee you nothing that they say is going to be anything like what you said, and they certainly aren't going to have the interview and the back, like that kind of stuff. That's really cool.
On the piece of the book of the day.
Yeah, that in a little, yeah, like that's not going to happen. So it's crazy. The way that just getting the perspectives and hearing what other people, it's really fascinating to me. It's really interesting. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm glad people are interested enough to want to be a part of it. That's good too. Yeah. So cool. Well, I really appreciate it. I won't take up too much more of your time.
Well, thank you for having me on here.
Yeah. So I'll probably just send you a link when it goes live. I'm going to rotate my genders because I have a couple of different, I have some guys and some gals, and I'm going to rotate genders. So I think yours is actually going to be the second one that comes out in January. So, but yeah, but I'll put your information and stuff in my description, and I'll send you a link when it goes live. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time and chatting.
Thank you. And you have a great night.
Yeah, thanks. You too. And sure, I'll talk to you another time later on.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for hanging out watching our top 5 influential horror movies. I'm really enjoying doing these episodes. They are a lot of fun, and I am really enjoying the interactions I'm having with other people in the horror community. So I hope you are enjoying watching them as much as I am having them. These episodes will be also listed on our podcast, which will be in the description below. And you can go there to listen to the full episode without the cuts that we had to make for time references for YouTube. And yeah, make sure you circle back. There's going to be 11 episodes total. So make sure you're caught up on all of the ones before and after. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy your weekend. We will see you in the next one.